Good evening, everybody. Just got home from a late night yin yoga class, and I wanted to hop on here really quick. There's been something that it's been coming up again and again for me. And when that happens, I know it's something that I am meant to share. Um, when it just won't, like, it just keeps getting louder and louder. And okay, so in 2020, we all had huge disruption to our lives, right? And we're kind of maybe starting to feel our way into a new way of normal living, if you can call it that. In 2021, I left my corporate career. And what I have experienced, and I think that we can all relate to this over the last few years because of this huge disruption in our lives and how we work, in how we travel, in how we spend time around people. We have these cycles that, like this cycle where things come to an end, like, and then that opens up space for something new. And from the standpoint of spirituality, these are known as death and rebirth cycles. And for me, one of the things that I have really, really learned about myself, I think that, in general, our society teaches us to be this way, but is to be ego led. And it's to be led through our life based on our titles or the things we've done, the accolades that we get from other people, that external validation. And this is certainly how I lived most of my life up to this point. And as I have really started to decondition the things that have helped me step into this new way of being, of existing, I just wanted to talk kind of that difference that I've experienced between being very ego-led most of my life versus now being led by my soul, being led by who I know I am to my core, the wisdom that I bring to this world, through my experiences, through the transformation of those experiences into becoming, better in who I am at being. And when we experience these huge disruptions in our lives, and that's something that I've seen, that I've experienced a lot of those, and I've normalized them, whether it's the autoimmune diagnosis or divorce or leaving my corporate career or these big major things that I have normalized. And again, I've lived so much of my life on this, with this external validation, this need for getting those things externally outside of myself. And also, during most of my life, it's been those things that that have attracted the people into my life that I've attracted into my life. It's they were drawn to the accomplishments I had made, or where, what I was doing, and what I had created in my life. And, that I had seemed from the outside to have my shit together, which was, totally not always true. So it was this certain image that I had created and that other people were attracted to because that's where I lived. That's where I chose. And, like, leaving my career, the whole, like, COVID and working from home and this disruption in our lives, and creating something totally new that none of us knew could exist, because it never had to. It never had to exist where everybody could be able to work from home. And we had these systems that all of a sudden went into place that allowed us to do that. And it was such a disruptor of the status quo of the way things had always been done, and the old thought systems and the old structures. We had to adapt. We had to figure out how to learn to do things differently. And I think this is such a good example of really of what it takes to shift and adapt. It's not always done by choice, right? Sometimes it's done because something comes into our life that we don't have, like we just have to respond and figure out how to do things in a different way. And this is how, like, this can lead to massive change in our lives. I think we're seeing, now in the kind of aftermath, a lot of companies are wanting people to come back into the office. There's a lot of resistance to that because people have seen the freedom that they have to be able to work and have their family and be able to go to appointments and, go to kids' activities and not have to worry about daycare and all of those things. And so there's been a lot of resistance to that, where, there's a lot of parts of the system, the companies, and that want to go back to the way it was. And this is one of the things that I have learned so much about on my own journey is we can't go back to the way it was. Like, it's not even an option anymore. And when we get thrown into this pattern of living in wanting something from the past, desiring something that's no longer available, and really desiring something that doesn't exist anymore, it can put us into this pattern of, often what I see when I see people, or when I meet people or experience people or have conversations with people who live in that, wanting to go back and do things differently, or wanting to go back to a time before, they can often live in a world of regret, in a world of, I should have done things differently, or why didn't I do this, or, feeling like that maybe they have failed, or if they could just turn back the clock and go do things differently. And to me, that way of thinking, that way of doing things, causes so much suffering. It causes so much conflict and suffering. And yet it's hard to oftentimes let things go when we're not in the right state of mind to do that. And so in my experience, and some of the things that I've really been able to shift in my world is, like, I have choices available to me at all times. And there may be some times where I don't like the choices that I have, but there's always a choice. There's always a way that I can step into something that is up to me, that I'm not a victim, that I'm not just letting life happen to me, that I'm not just, a victim of whatever the circumstance is, or whatever. And this is really how we can transform our lives into creating things that, rather than just letting life happen to us, we can step in, making a decision. My battery's dying on my phone. Making a choice. And what I have found has been one of the most difficult things as I have started down this path and been navigating from that standpoint of empowerment, that standpoint of knowing I always have a choice, that standpoint of trusting that everything that's happening in my life is happening for me, to put me into situations and circumstances and with people where A, I learn, B, I grow, and C, I have the option to, and the choices to navigate my way through to create the things that I desire to have in my life. It helps me align with who I am. It helps me align with what I want. It helps me align with what I'm creating in my life. And so one of the things that has been difficult for me is a lot of my relationships have changed. A lot of my relationships have ended. And, we want to bring everybody along with us. We want to bring everybody, I want everybody to know and understand the things that I have learned and understand about my life, myself, my experiences, my situations, everything that has led me to this point. And often what I found is that with certain people in certain relationships, that I've gone through this transition, and there's no going back. There's no going back to the way things used to be. And I can't dim my light. I can't hold myself back. I can't unlearn or not see the things that I have seen and experienced and transformed in my life to stay at that place in that relationship. And that doesn't mean the relationship has to end necessarily, but a lot of my relationships have certainly changed as I have navigated this. And so the thing that I have learned is really important is trusting that my path is my path. And when someone is ready to hear or to share or to, experience life in a different way, often that's when the things that I talk about and the messages that I have will land with them. And I have to trust that. I have to trust that everyone else, obviously, everybody's on their own path, and trusting that the right people are going to hear the things that they need to hear when I get on Facebook and I talk about living from my soul of what I know I'm supposed to do, as opposed to living from my ego that I did for so much of my life, and releasing the need to make that happen, releasing any expectations or anything around relationships that I have, relationships that are coming, and really stepping back out of that people pleasing and trying to make sure that I don't offend anybody. And one of my coaches called me on that recently and said, there seems to be still some of this people pleasing part of you that is coming through in your message. And you guys, there have been so many changes in my life, and there have been so many things that have been so foreign to the life that I lived before, and it has scared the shit out of me to dive into it and do the work for myself. That's not so scary anymore, but to share it and to, put it out to the world, when I always identified myself as this, and with the titles and the degrees and the things that I did. And so, I'm here to share what my heart is calling me to do. And that is stepping into being a leader from the core of who I'm here to be, and doing the work to decondition all of the beliefs and all of the thoughts and all of the bullshit that I have taken on and that I have, that I have owned as my own, that doesn't serve me in the message that I'm here to bring, the life that I'm here to live. And so, in this void of who I was and who I am becoming, I have learned to do things differently. I've learned to think of things differently. And it didn't just happen overnight. It happened with becoming aware and breaking things down and down to the foundation. And that's where we have to go. That's where we have to go if we want to make these big changes in our life. That's what happens when we start down this path of having a spiritual transformation in our lives. You have to learn new ways. You have to be willing to let go and release the old ways. And there's going to be a lot of people who don't understand. There's going to be a lot of people who, are maybe at one point in your life were there to walk with you that aren't going to be there anymore. There's going to be people who come into my life for a period of time. There's going to be people who leave. And I know I can't go back. I can't unlearn, I can't unknow the things that I know now that have in ways totally destroyed the way I thought life was supposed to be. And going through that transformation, I mean, it's been incredible. It's been scary as shit. It's been times where I don't, thank God I have had the support that I have had in walking with others who are also on this journey, who are further ahead than I am. And, that's the beauty of it is no matter where you go, there are resources, and you will never end up back where you started. I look at how far that I've come, and that's part of the journey, and it's really amazing. But when you're at the beginning of it, it's scary. It can, like, it can stop you. It can, and it did for me for like 10 years. I started down the path. I got into a different relationship and I went, up. I'm going to do this now. I'm going to do the relationship, and I'm going to do all of the things that I did to try to make the relationship work. Those were great, amazing learning experiences for me, but they also held me in a place that I can't stay anymore. I haven't been able to stay. So I just wanted to share that with you. I know, there's a lot of communities and a lot of people who are sharing their own journeys. I think things are changing in a lot of ways in our lives, and when we can start to see that and really step into our power, it's incredible. I know I have a masterclass coming. I think I have a name for it. I'll be sharing more information soon. I'm really excited about it. But this is part of the work that we do in there. So if you're ready to dive in, if you're ready to go further, if you are feeling pulled, but you don't know what that next step is, this might be for you. If you're feeling called, you can reach out to me. You can message me. I will be putting out more information about this as I develop it. And I hope you're having a great night. So we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.